Most people think the first big financial milestone is becoming rich. They imagine the moment life changes is when they finally buy the dream house, drive the nice car, quit the job they hate, or see six figures sitting in their bank account. But for many people, the real change starts much earlier. It starts when you save your first $10,000. Not because $10,000 makes you wealthy overnight. It does not. $10,000 will not buy financial freedom. It will not remove every bill. It will not make you immune to emergencies. And it definitely will not mean you have made it. But something strange happens when a person reaches that first real money milestone. Their brain starts to change. Their confidence changes. Their decisions change. The way they see work, spending, investing, risk, and the future begins to shift. Because for the first time, money stops feeling like something that only passes through their hands. It starts feeling like something they can control. Welcome to Capital Academy, where we break down personal finance, investing, money psychology, passive income, and wealth building in a simple way. If you want to understand money better and build a stronger financial future, subscribe to the channel and follow along as we turn complicated money ideas into simple lessons you can actually use. Now, let us talk about why everything changes after your first $10,000. Most people are taught to think about money in terms of survival. You work, you get paid, you pay rent, you buy food, you handle transport, you cover bills, and by the time the month ends, you are already waiting for the next paycheck. This cycle can feel normal because almost everyone around you is living some version of it. But there is a hidden problem with this cycle. When every dollar already has somewhere to go before it even arrives, your brain starts to treat money like a temporary visitor. Money comes in, money goes out, and you never really feel like you own it. You only feel like you are managing its movement. This is why many people can earn more money and still feel broke. The income increases, but the pattern stays the same. A bigger paycheck comes in, and bigger expenses quickly appear to meet it. A slightly better apartment, a newer phone, more takeout, more subscriptions, more weekend spending, better clothes, nicer things. And slowly, the extra income disappears before it ever becomes real financial progress. This is why the first $10,000 matters so much. It is not just a number. It is proof. It proves that you can interrupt the cycle. It proves that you can earn money, keep some of it, and build something that does not disappear immediately. For many people, this is the first time their financial life stops being only about reaction. Before that point, money often feels like defense. A bill appears, and you react. An emergency happens, and you panic. A friend invites you somewhere, and you check your balance. Something breaks, and your whole month changes. But once you have $10,000 saved or invested, you begin to feel a small sense of financial distance. And financial distance is powerful. Imagine standing right next to a fire. When you are too close, all you can think about is the heat. You cannot plan. You cannot think clearly. You only react. But if you step back, even a little, you can see the whole room. You can think. You can choose. You can make better decisions. That is what your first $10,000 does. It gives you space. Not enough space to stop working forever, but enough space to stop panicking over every small problem. A car repair becomes annoying instead of devastating. A delayed payment becomes stressful, but not life-ending. A medical bill becomes something to solve instead of something that throws your entire life into chaos. That emotional difference changes how you behave. And behavior is where wealth building really begins. Many people think wealth is built by finding the perfect investment. But wealth is usually built by becoming the kind of person who can keep money long enough for it to grow. That sounds simple, but it is not easy. Because saving your first $10,000 forces you to train financial muscles that most people avoid. You learn patience. You learn to say no. You learn to separate wants from needs. You learn that every purchase has a future cost. You learn that money can either buy temporary comfort today or long-term options tomorrow. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Because when you are trying to build your first $10,000, every small decision starts to matter. That random online order, that daily food delivery, that expensive weekend, that upgrade you did not really need. None of these things seem life-changing on their own. But together, they quietly decide whether you stay stuck or move forward. This is one of the biggest psychological lessons of money. People rarely ruin their finances with one dramatic decision. Most of the time, They drift into financial pressure through hundreds of small decisions that felt harmless in the moment. And they build financial strength the same way, not through one magical move, but through hundreds of small choices that slowly create a different life. Your first $10,000 teaches you this. It shows you that wealth is not only about income. It is about direction. Two people can earn the same amount of money and live completely different financial lives. One person earns money and immediately turns it into lifestyle. The other person earns money and slowly turns part of it into security, opportunity, and future freedom. At first, the difference is almost invisible. They may wear similar clothes, live in similar places, drive similar cars, eat at similar restaurants. But after a few years, the difference becomes obvious. One person has memories of spending. The other person has options. And options are one of the most underrated forms of wealth. When you have no savings, you often have to accept whatever life gives you. You stay in a job you dislike because you cannot risk missing income. You accept bad financial terms because you need quick money. You avoid opportunities because you cannot afford the temporary uncertainty. You stay stressed because every problem feels urgent. But once you have real savings, even if it is not a fortune, you start to gain something very important. Choice. You can think before making decisions. You can avoid desperate moves. You can take a calculated risk. You can invest without feeling like you are gambling with your rent money. You can walk away from some bad situations because you are not completely trapped. That is why the first $10,000 changes more than your bank balance. It changes your identity. Before you reach it, you may see yourself as someone who is trying to survive financially. After you reach it, you start seeing yourself as someone who can build. An identity matters because people act in alignment with who they believe they are. If you believe you are bad with money, you will often behave like someone who expects money to disappear. If you believe you are always broke, you may spend quickly because deep down you do not trust money to stay anyway. But when you prove to yourself that you can build $10,000, the story changes. You begin to think, maybe I can do $20,000. Maybe I can invest. Maybe I can pay off this debt. Maybe I can build an emergency fund. Maybe I can actually create a different financial future. That belief is not small. It is the beginning of momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal finance. The first $10,000 is often the hardest because you are not just building money. You are breaking old patterns. You are fighting impulse spending. You are ignoring comparison. You are learning delayed gratification. You are saying no to things that used to feel normal. You are building discipline while the results still look small. But once you cross that line, something changes. You have evidence. You are no longer guessing whether you can do it. You have done it. And once your brain sees proof, the next goal feels more possible. This is why many people say the first 10,000 is harder than the next 10,000. Not because the math magically becomes easy, but because the person changes. The habits are stronger. The confidence is higher. The system is clearer. The emotional resistance is lower. You now know what works. You know how much you can save. You know where your money leaks are. You know what temptations slow you down. You know what kind of lifestyle you can maintain while still moving forward. And this knowledge becomes a personal financial blueprint. Now, there is another reason $10,000 matters. It is the point where money can start becoming a tool instead of just protection. At the beginning, most people need savings for safety, and that is important. An emergency fund can protect you from falling backwards. But once you have a foundation, you can begin thinking about growth. You can learn about investing. You can study assets. You can understand how money can work over time. You can begin moving from only saving money to building wealth. This does not mean you should rush into risky investments. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes people make after saving money is thinking they now need to multiply it quickly. They see $10,000 and suddenly feel pressure. They want to double it. They want the perfect stock. They want the fastest side hustle. They want passive income immediately. But the goal is not to turn your first $10,000 into a lottery ticket. The goal is to protect the habits that helped you build it. Because the same discipline that builds 10,000 can eventually build 50,000, 100,000, and more. But if you become impatient, you can lose the money and the confidence at the same time. This is where many beginners fall into traps. They save money slowly, then risk it quickly. They spend years building a foundation, then gamble it on hype. They finally escape financial pressure, then chase shortcuts that pull them back into it. So the real lesson is not just to reach $10,000. The lesson is to understand what it represents. It represents discipline. It represents patience. It represents emotional control. It represents the ability to choose your future over temporary pressure. And once you understand that, you realize the money is only part of the reward. The bigger reward is the person you become while building it. So what should you actually do differently? First, stop seeing your first $10,000 as just money. See it as a foundation. It is the floor beneath your financial life. The stronger the floor, the less every problem can shake you. Second, build it before you try to look rich. A lot of people do this backwards. They buy the appearance of success before building the structure of success. But looking financially comfortable and being financially stable are not the same thing. One impresses people for a moment. The other protects your life. Third, do not wait until you earn a huge income to start. Many people delay saving because they think their income is too small. But the first goal is not perfection. The first goal is proof. Even saving a small amount consistently teaches your brain that you are someone who keeps money. And that identity is powerful. Fourth, protect your momentum. Once you start building, avoid the mindset that says, I have been disciplined, so now I deserve to spend it all. You do deserve to enjoy life. But enjoyment should not destroy progress. The goal is balance. Build your future while still living your life in a way that makes sense. And finally, remember that your first $10,000 is not the finish line. It is the doorway. It opens the door to better decisions, stronger confidence, and a different relationship with money. Before that point, money may feel like something that controls you. After that point, you begin to see that money can become something you direct. That is when everything starts to change. Not because $10,000 makes you rich, but because it shows you that wealth is possible. It shows you that your habits can change. It shows you that your future does not have to look like your past. And maybe the most powerful part is this. When you finally build your first $10,000, you realize the real milestone was never just the number. The real milestone was becoming the kind of person who could build it. Because once you become that person, the next chapter of your financial life becomes very different. And that is where wealth building truly begins.